honor to one and all present here. Respected Principal Ma'am, Honorable Guest, Vice Principal Sir, Honorable Teachers, Seniors, Juniors, and all my dear friends present here. Today, I, Sharmistha of Class 11 Standard, welcome you all to the 3rd Kuladhar Das Academic Symposium in Modern English School. Symposium often serve as platforms for individuals to present their latest research findings, share insights from their experiences, and engage in meaningful dialogue with peers. This event can cover a wide range of topics from scientific and academic disciplines to business and technology sectors. Attendees at symposium include researchers, professionals, policymakers, and sometimes members of the public who are interested in the subject matter. Symposium can take various formats such as keynote speeches, paper presentation, poster sessions, roundtable discussions, and networking opportunities. They may be organized by academic institutions, professional associations, corporations, or other entities with an interest in promoting knowledge exchange and collaboration within a specific field. Overall, symposium plays a vital role in advancing knowledge, fostering interdisciplinary collaborations, and facilitating the dissemination of new ideas and discoveries. So, today's topic for our symposium is global crisis and global migration. Now, I would request Arunabh Das and Jyotishnata Choudhury to honor our guest, Dr. Muktikam Hazarika, the Assistant Professor of Cotton University, with the Fulam Kamsa. Arunabh Das and Jyotishnata Choudhury. And now, I would like to request Principal Ma'am, Mrs. Rani Das, to grace the stage and say a few words on the occasion.
Respected guest of honor, Dr. Muktikam Hazarika, Assistant Professor of Cotton University, respected colleagues, sir, respected teachers, and my dear children. Today, we are at this stage when school is growing bigger and a little bit mature. Tomorrow is our foundation day, and I am quite emotional thinking about that we have crossed 40 years, and this is 41st Foundation Day, celebration of Foundation Day. The school was established by few like-minded professors and social workers, including my father-in-law, Kuladhar Das, whom we call as Big Sir. And by his effort, you can say that I have seen many people in my life, but I have learned from him that it is not about intelligence, it is about hard work, and of course, smart hard work that really matters in life. And that's what my father-in-law, our big son, our founder of this school, has given to us, and today we are at this stage. The school has grown to a different level, a different stage. If we talk about school is about a learning institution, an epitome of, building character and also attitude of each and every person what we are associated with. It's not about only academic, it is about the journey from class nursery to class 12, and with the ups and downs and challenges that we have made, we become matured. Some great philosophers They say that when you meet challenge in your life, you become mature. That exactly is happening with my life. You can say that I am mature now to handle any cases, any problems, any things that comes in our footsteps. Every year, my first challenge is to make you a proper human being and also with great result. So our primary effort is always academic. And then we come to the secondary effort is all she sees. But everywhere, every step in all these two, academic, sports, culture and music. In all these three spheres, you will see that you as a person, you grow. And you as a person, you learn. You talk with your friends, you talk with your families. I know that if you are very unhappy or if you are very happy, could you please go out and share your, if you cannot control emotionally, that is also sometimes quite difficult. Emotional control is very important in life. Say for example, when you go to any funeral, we don't cry. As soon as we enter, we don't cry. Though we feel like crying, we don't cry. Now we become too happy that we are out of control. So your emotional control is also coming in, the character building process. So what I was trying to say, academic, sports, culture and music, you carry you as a person. We cannot talk about that this is right, this is wrong, this is good, this is bad. Depending on the situation, it becomes good or it becomes bad or it becomes whatever. But at the end of the day, you as a person, you be a good citizen of India, where you can serve your society, your family, your society, and your country. And entire country will be proud of you. If you become a gardener, you have to be the gardener of a president, so that you will be sought by everyone. That's how we work. That's the motto of the school. And we don't spend a single moment thinking that this is just a time, not our time. Let the students do whatever they do. No, we don't do that. We are not the believer of that particular saying. Academic Symposium is also a part of that journey which strengthened your understanding, your status, your character, your growth. And as a whole, you become a refined person, a refined student. A refined person means you need to engage critically. What is criticality in life? Every matter is critical. How? Say for example, some of you can use mobile at any moment. Mobile is an essential thing. You know that it is hard many times and you feel like, okay, again the same dialogue. No, it's not. It's not. It can create or it can make and break you as a person. I think the greatest trick now is the wrong use of mobile. Now why I am saying this? Because that is the tool which is quite associated with you. So, whether you will use it in a wrong way or the right way, this is your decision, your life, your decision. But as teacher or as school administrator, it is our moral duty that we will tell you, will inform you that you have to use in this way, not this way. Because if you go, that means in life there is a way, good way, bad way. There is a saying, every sentence has got two meanings. You can find out negative meaning or the positive meaning, right? If you find positive meaning, you get positivity everywhere. Even in desert also you find water. Even in ocean also you find a way behind, beneath the ocean. That's how we work. That's how you should believe in that. Some impossible things you should believe and you should have the courage to fight that. And to have that, you must have critical thinking. Many scientists, many researchers are talking about critical thinking. Criticality include analysis and also synthesis and evaluation of your knowledge. Analysis means you need to see why and how things happen. Why and how. Suppose your friends behave very badly all of a sudden. Instead of reacting very quickly, you must try to understand what's the reason behind this. If you start thinking what's the reason behind that behavior, instead of fighting verbally or physically, you would rather become a thinking person, and at what point of time you become silent. Herodotus, he was the first historian of the world. And Thucydides, the Greek historian, they say that sometimes silence is the best answer because you are a thinker. When you think so deep that particular problem, that the problem of the cello, that problem lies in the surface water, not in the depth. Okay? So when you think, you go deep and depth. So you forget what the problem was. So automatically you discover yourself. You discover that this is not the reason that I am a person here. I have got a bigger goals to fight. So you keep quiet. And then you become critical person. And then you act properly. So why and how is analysis? Then getting one knowledge and another knowledge, you have to combine these two knowledge. And then you need to form your own knowledge, creation of knowledge. If the creation would not have been here, today we would have been living in the ancient time. We are moving so fast. If we take one mobile, it stays for only 3 years life, whatever the expense is, whatever the cost is. Because new technology is coming, new outlook is coming, and new issues are coming. So when you become critical, you produce good things for the mankind. And that you give back to the society. That is why synthesis is very important. Then when you create, you try to understand and you evaluate the things that I have created, is it useful or it is not useful? Then the commerce is coming. Whether can we purchase it or not? Is it sellable product or it is just a product? So at the end of the day, arts, commerce and humanities all are present in every step of your life, and that's how we become the critical thinker. Today, the purpose of this meeting, this symposium, is to develop critical thinkers in front of you and for you yourself. I have learned critical thinking not in Guwahati, alas. I have learned in UK when our teachers, my teachers, taught me how to think and act. And our motto is think, feel and achieve. So today you all will present your argument. One doubt I would like to clear. In the student's mind, you may be thinking, oh, these are all copied and read out. Anybody can do it. Anybody can do it. Because we allow you to study as much as possible, as much as sources that you can bring and you can put into your argument. So you have read probably 6 articles, you have read probably 2-3 journals, you have probably read about Wikipedia, or you may have taken the help of ChatGPT. Absolutely fine. But that is your product, your writing and your argument. So your views are yours. You may have taken help from somebody, but the views that you are going to give is yours. So that's called research. That is not something that without seeing sing, you expect to say, deliver some tough topic. No. You read, you study, and you present. And then the questions will be coming because audience would like to hear from you. So there will be questions. So that's how we have developed this thing. This is the second Kuladhar Das Symposium. And I hope that it will learn and this effort will continue. This time we wanted to hold inter-school, but as our multipurpose hall is not ready, we have dropped the idea. And we are looking forward from next year, it will be inter-school symposium. So when it will be inter-school symposium, what you have to do, we have to hold our symposium beforehand so that we select the best speaker. So that speaker will, speak. That's not a competition. Life is not a competition. It is about fine-tuning, hard work, research, and critical thinking. So thank you very much. Thank you especially Dr. Muktikam Hazarika. Thank you so much that within such a short time you have accepted my invitation, and with this school will be grateful to you. You have helped me in many respects. Thank you once again. Best of luck. Wish you all the best to all the students, those who have come here newly joined, old student, whatever. Please maintain the decorum of the house, and we will be with you. And looking forward for your critical engagement. Thank you once again. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your words of wisdom. Moving on, now I would like to introduce our key speakers for the day. Jyotishnata Choudhury, 11C, Arunabh Das, 11C, Arpita Roy, 12C, Hardeek Gaurav Bania, 11C, Ishita Rani Boro, 10A, Sayan Ghosh, 10B. The stage is all yours.
Good morning everyone, honorable guests, principal ma'am, vice principal sir, teachers, seniors, juniors and all my dear friends present here. Today, I, Arunabh Das of class 11 would like to give a short presentation upon the ongoing Syrian crisis. Crisis is a time when a difficult or important decision must be taken in a flick of a moment. Thus this decision or crisis results in migration of people towards a spot in which is safer in terms of them. Both migration and crisis can be termed as parallel entities and can be termed as mutually exclusive. First, let us know about Syria. Ladies and gentlemen, Syria, officially the Syrian Arab Republic. It is a country in West Asia, located in eastern Mediterranean and Levant. It is bounded by the Mediterranean Sea to the west, Turkey to the north, Iraq to the east and southeast, Jordan to the south, and Israel and Lebanon to the southeast. Cyprus lies to the west across the Mediterranean Sea. It is a unitary republic that consists of 14 governors. Ladies and gentlemen, today it does not take a minute for a song or a trend to get viral upon social media. But the war that is ongoing on this for 13 years on the surface of this earth is unknown to many of us. The war in which thousands of people are killed, including children, deadly weapons are used. Some of the greatest superpowers are engaged. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the Syrian war. The Syrian civil war is an ongoing multi-sided conflict in Syria, involving various state-sponsored and non-state-sponsored actors. In March 2011, popular discontent with ruler of Syria, Bashar al-Assad, triggered a large-scale protest and pro-democracy rallies all across Syria as a part of wider Arab Spring protests in the region. Various armed rebel groups such as Syrian army began forming across the country, marking the beginning of Syrian insurgency. Following the outbreak of the protests of the Syrian revolution during the Arab Spring protests in 2011 and the escalation of ensuing conflict into a full-scale civil war by mid-2012. The Syrian civil war became a threat of proxy warfare between various regional powers such as Turkey and Iran. Spillover of the Syrian civil war into wider region began when the Iraqi insurgent group known as Islamic State of ISI started intervening in the conflict in 2012. Receiving arms from NATO and GCC states, rebel forces initially made significant advances against the Russian government forces who were receiving arms from Iran and Russia. In this slide, we can see the timeline of the intervention of the US from 2011 to 2020. The ongoing conflict in Syria is widely described as a series of overlapping proxy wars between regional and world powers, primarily between United States, Russia, as well as between the Iran and Saudi Arabia. This is pretty much visible in the slide. While all sides to the conflict have committed heinous laws of war violations, the Syrian-Russian military alliance has conducted indiscriminate aerial bombings of schools, hospitals, and markets, the civilian infrastructure essential to society's survival. According to Air Wars, a UK-based monitoring group, the Russian Air Force alone has conducted 39,000 airstrikes in Syria since 2015. According to Syrian Network for Human Rights, SNHRC, nearly 15,000 have died due to torture since May 2011, the majority at the hands of Syrian government forces. The network also estimates that at least 1 lakh Syrians remain forcibly disappeared, with nearly 85% at the hands of the Syrian government forces. The UN Commission of Inquiry was also able to document cases of sexual violence inflicted during detention of in-government facilities. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, SOHRC, a UK-based monitoring group with a network of sources on ground, had documented the total deaths up to 5,03,064 people by March 2023. After over a decade of conflict, Syria remains the world's largest refugee crisis since 2011. More than 40 million Syrians have been forced to flee their homes in search of safety. More than 7.2 million Syrians remain internally displaced in their own country, where 70% of the population is in need of humanitarian crisis and 90% of them live below the poverty line. Matter of fact is that in this graph, we are able to see how many countries have taken Syrian refugees. But none of the invading countries except from Turkey are seen here. This shows the dynamics of world politics. Approximately 5.5 million Syrian refugees live in 5 neighboring countries of Syria: Turkey, Lebanon, Jordan, Iraq, and Egypt. The destruction and dislocation associated with civil war have been devastated Syria's economy. By the end of 2013, the UN estimated total economic damage of the civil war up to $143 billion. According to the World Bank, a cumulative total of $226 billion have been lost due to the civil war. By 2021, Syria's economic output shrunk by 60%. The national currency depreciated by 99%, and more than 90% of population live below the poverty line. Office of the Politician. Resolutions. As Pope Francis told, that forgiveness, dialogue, reconciliation, these are the words of peace in beloved Syria, in Middle East, and all around the world. 9 rounds of UN-mediated peace talks, known as Geneva II process, have failed to make progress, with President Assad apparently unwilling to negotiate with political opposition groups that insisted he must step down as part of the government. Russia, Iran, and Turkey set up parallel political talks known as the Astana process in 2017. An agreement was reached the following year to form a 150-member committee which will write a new constitution leading to free and fair election, supervised by the UN. But little progress has been achieved after 8 rounds of talks. Ladies and gentlemen, it is very easy today to give a speech upon this issue, but it is very difficult that the children there are finding their future in the rubbles. Our earth, today consists of many pre-speecher and mediatorial councils like UN and EU and etc. But it is very much unfortunate that still our society faces this kind of crisis in the 21st century. At last, I would only like to say that it's time that we shall not concise our humanity only till our humanitarian needs. Thank you.
Good morning everyone present here. Today, I, Ishita, stand before you to shed light on the heart-wrenching refugee crisis unfolding in Venezuela. Here, I'd like to start by presenting a well-known quote by Khalid Hosseini. Refugees are mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, children with us, except that that twist of fate has bound their lives to global refugee crisis on a bizarre scale. Something very similar happened in Venezuela. Millions of people were being tortured, due to which people had to migrate to different countries to lead a peaceful life. Venezuela, a country which was known for its oil reserves and for being a generous host to its refugees, is itself now facing an immigration crisis since past few years. This crisis has not only shaken the foundations of the nation, but also of humanity, leaving an unforgettable mark on the global conscience. Since 2015, 6 million Venezuelans have fled from their own motherland. Now, a question arises: how and why did this record-holding refugee crisis take place? The answer lies in the political turmoil which caused the suffering to Venezuela for years. Under Hugo Chávez's Bolivarian Revolution after 1999, government policies like nationalization of industries, currency controls, and hostility towards private enterprises severely impacted the economy. This led to an initial wave of emigration, primarily among the middle and upper classes seeking better opportunities abroad. After Chávez's death in 2013, Nicolas Maduro took over the presidency. Venezuela was already facing economic challenges, and instead of implementing reforms to address these issues, Maduro doubled down on Chávez's socialist policies, which ultimately led to the disastrous consequences for the economy. Under Maduro's authoritarian rule, the economic situation spiraled into a disastrous crisis characterized by hyperinflation, widespread shortages of food and medicine, and a collapse of public services. As you can see in the following infographic given, this shows how there is a huge difference in the economic data of Venezuela in 2007 and 2008 when compared to 2018. The values of the US oil imports from Venezuela that had a dramatic fall from around $43 billion in 2008 to $8 billion in 2018. The poverty rate and lack of share of population with no confidence in the government has increased significantly while the inflation rate has exploded. As the economic situation worsened, basic necessities like food, medicine, and healthcare became increasingly scarce and affordable for the majority of the population. This created a severe humanitarian crisis with many Venezuelans struggling to meet their basic needs. Here in the given picture, we can see that after all the tortures of the citizens of Venezuela has gathered to protest against Maduro's authoritarian rule and demands to remove him from the presidency. In January 2019, the political crisis reached a tipping point when Maduro claimed victory in a widely disputed election, leading the leader of the opposition-controlled National Assembly, Juan Guaido, to declare himself as interim president, invoking constitutional provisions, argued Maduro's re-election to be illegitimate. This claim of Guaido led to power struggles and for the attention of the US, Canada, and most Western democracies taking sides. The power struggle has been marked by political violence, mass protests, and a humanitarian crisis as the country's economy continues to deteriorate. Furthermore, the Venezuelan military in the ongoing refugee crisis have been instances where Furthermore, the Venezuelan military in the ongoing refugee crisis have been instances where its actions have directly impacted the lives of Venezuelan military and refugees. At border crossings, Venezuelan military and security forces have been tasked with controlling the flow of migrants and refugees. In some cases, this has led to reports of harsh treatment, including physical abuse, extortion, and denial of entry or exit. Human rights organizations have documented instances where Venezuelan soldiers and border guards have used excessive force against the migrants, including firing tear gas and using of rubber bullets to those attempting to cross the border. And also, the military remained loyal to Maduro, giving him more protection and power. However, it is also important to know that not all instances of military treatment of migrants have been negative. In some cases, individual soldiers and units have shown compassion and attempted to assist migrants in need. Moving forward, as the crisis escalated, Maduro's government cracked down on dissent and opposition voices, limiting freedom of speech and freedom of assembly. Human rights organizations have documented numerous instances of arbitrary detentions, torture, and extrajudicial killings of political opponents, activists, and protesters. This repression and abuse by Maduro's forces have made life very difficult and unsafe for many Venezuelans. It is a major reason for millions to have fled the country as refugees, seeking freedom and safety elsewhere. The political situation in Venezuela involves strong denial of human rights like freedom of expression and freedom from fear. This harsh crackdown on opposition has directly caused the refugee crisis as people escape the oppression. Now, since so much of chaos has been created, there were various attempts to resolve this issue through negotiations and diplomatic efforts, but these have failed due to the unwillingness of both sides to compromise. The international community has also tried to intervene with countries imposing sanctions on Maduro and his inner circle and offering humanitarian aid to the Venezuelan people. However, Maduro's government have often obstructed or politicized these efforts, accusing the international community of meddling in Venezuela's internal affairs. The combination of economic hardships and political oppression and human rights violations has led to mass exodus of Venezuelans seeking refuge in neighboring countries. Now, here a question arises. Where are these people migrating to? Majority of Venezuelan refugees and migrants have sought refuge in neighboring countries such as Colombia, Ecuador, Brazil, Peru, and more. These countries have struggled to provide adequate shelter, healthcare, and education for the incoming Venezuelans, putting immense strain on their resources and infrastructure. Whereas countries farther afield, such as US, Chile, and many more, received significant number of migrants and refugees. The ongoing crisis in Venezuela has had a devastating impact on the lives of millions of people. Children and families have been particularly affected, with many facing malnutrition, lack of access to healthcare, and disruptions to their education. In conclusion, resolving the Venezuelan crisis requires a multifaceted approach that addresses the root causes of the crisis, including political and economic reforms, respect for human rights, and commitment to democratic principles. Let this symposium represent a call to action to the global community. The Venezuelan refugee crisis is not just about statistics and politics. While the path to resolving this crisis may be complex and full of challenges, but inaction will not be an option. The Venezuelan people have endured immense hardship and they deserve our support, our voices, and our collective efforts to alleviate their plight and work towards a peaceful resolution. Thank you.
Good morning everyone, respected Principal Ma'am, Honorable Guest Sir, Vice Principal Sir. Today I, Choudhury, am going to present a paper on global migration and global crisis with specific focus on the economic conditions that impact migration in the country of Bangladesh. Migration as a global phenomenon. Over the last decades, migration has seen a dramatic increase as a phenomenon. This has come with positives and negatives. There have been two distinct fundamental changes, for better or worse, relating to the increase in global migration, physical and ideological. The physical changes refer to population sizes that have shifted radically across various countries. The ideological changes refer to people's perceptions of other people and the collective thinking of nations on matters of culture and society that have come to the fore. An estimated 86.7 million international migrants lived in Europe and Asia in 2020, as can be seen in the diagram presented in the projector. One of the most densely populated countries, Bangladesh, has seen migration take a toll on its economy. Over the last century, the country split from India and then Pakistan, each moment of independence corresponding with the rush of migration into and out of its territory. Amid sustained economic growth and rising living standards after Bangladesh declared its independence in 1971, labor migration, particularly to the Middle East, has grown in recent decades due in part to an unstable domestic labor market. Emigration is largely the result of economic and social drivers, while natural disasters and environmental insecurity have accelerated internal migration. More than 7.4 million Bangladesh-born individuals lived abroad as of 2020. The money that these migrants and others sent back, which was $21.9 million via official remittance channels in 2023, according to the government, is a major source of development for Bangladesh. Most Bangladeshi immigrants are men, although more women have been leaving, particularly to go to the Middle East and East Asia. However, they do not always secure a stable income or safe residence. Many have been victims of torture and violence, including sexual exploitation, and have returned to Bangladesh. Despite the fact that remittance serves as one of the core sources of financial income for the government, it is very irresponsible for Bangladesh's government to not take proper care of its migrants, especially women, when they have been targeted continuously in terms of sexual exploitation, torture, and violence. Studies show that economic factors, social considerations, and the policy context in Bangladesh and destination countries are key drivers of migration. Although family and cultural forces also have a significant impact. Higher standards of living are a strong pull factor, especially to countries in Europe and North America. Much of the economy relies on agriculture and the booming garment sector, but due to factors such as economic insecurity, depressed wages, and the absence of a robust social safety net, there is a growing interest among the educated population in emigrating rather than local entrepreneurship. The fact that the educated population in Bangladesh also want to leave their country of origin and migrate elsewhere speaks volumes about the deteriorating and degrading workforce and labor market conditions in the country. Environmental vulnerability also contributes to the drivers of migration, especially when combined with poverty and poor labor market conditions, providing a strong impetus for seeking work abroad. There is also significant internal displacement due to natural disasters and environmental degradation, including river erosion and flooding. One of the most serious problems faced by migrants in the Middle East is inadequacy of remittance agreements. One cause is insufficient knowledge of remittance procedure. What is needed is a publicity campaign covering remittances themselves and their disposal and investment. Lack of knowledge of Arabic, non-cooperation of foreign bank personnel, and inadequate telecommunication links are also major difficulties. Losses of remittances apparently are large. They are encashed by fraudulent means, forged signatures, paid to wrong persons, and families are also victims of threats, robbery, etc. Furthermore, domestic banks don't earn enough handling remittances, which makes many of them disinterested. Now, here are some of the contributing factors that have led to such a sorry condition for Bangladesh. COVID-19. Bangladesh experienced severe demand contraction in the local economy, which exacerbated overall economic crisis in the country. Both domestic and international demands due to outbreak and subsequent lockdown reduced, and producers responded by lowering output to minimize loss, especially in manufacturing sectors. Import restrictions imposed by the central bank resulted in a 39% drop in import payments in March and a 45% decrease in letter of credit. Now, when we talk about the banking and financial system, there is a culture of illicit money laundering, which is very much prevalent in the country of Bangladesh. Bangladesh has large diaspora and remittances play a crucial role in the economy. Informal channels through which many remittances are sent can be exploited for money laundering. Banking sector has faced multiple problems, including high-profile cases of bank fraud. Now again, as we can see, as mentioned earlier, the government cannot take care of the migrants that are migrating out of the country in search for jobs, and they are generating revenue for the country itself. The government cannot take or provide proper workforce conditions for people within the country, for the labor force within the country to work and have healthy living standards. And the government cannot be responsible enough to wipe down such a prevalent laundering business that has been going on in Bangladesh since ages. The fact that this is so prevalent and so famous is the example of the Hardeek business. It is an infamous business and is an informal way of transferring money from one country to another. There has been a culture of lack of accountability and impunity that has been persisting in Bangladesh since years. The government has been accused of turning a blind eye to corruption and mismanagement and of not taking action to prevent it. Many banks in Bangladesh have poor lending practices which have led to a high level of non-performing loans. This has put the banks at the risk of insolvency and has had a negative impact on the overall economy. What all of this amounts to is a fragile banking sector, ineffective public expenditure management, low foreign direct investment, inadequate spending on health and education, high inflation rising at steep rates. Here in the diagram, it can be seen that inflation has jumped to 8.78% in February of 2023. Bangladesh watches its balance of payment situation weakening further with the balance of financial account dipping with its negative impact on production and inflation according to latest available statistics. Commercial banks in Bangladesh are facing difficulties in fulfilling their import payment obligations due to a rapid depletion of their foreign currency holdings due to the ongoing dollar crisis. In search of solutions, we could refer to good governance, transparency, and accountability, careful adherence to the rules of the Bangladesh Bank, to ensure that the interest rates are market-oriented, a strong private sector, encouraging small cottage industries, and aiding the SME sector in order to lessen inflation. As of 2022, 18.7% of the population lived below the national poverty line. The tough economic conditions and poor standards of living have resulted in the out-migration rates increasing exponentially. In the conclusion, the global traffic of people across territories is continually on the rise, reflecting not merely interdependence, but also inequality across a wide spectrum of political, economic, and cultural divergence. It results in crisis as well as the promise of opportunity, and torn between such inevitable opposites, people migrate from one place to another. Thank you.
It seems that sometimes you are disinterested in this topic. Try to engage because here we want your attention. These problems are attached to our life. Just imagine, if all the Bangladeshi people will come here, where will you go? Bangladeshi decimate, number 1 point. Had it been, we had we been near the Syria, today our country would be flooded with the Syrian refugees. What would we do? Already from Myanmar people are coming in Mizoram. You will have to tackle this problem, not us, because you are growing. One day you will become the official. So try to engage. This is my request. Alright?
Good morning everyone, respected judges, principal ma'am, vice principal sir, vice principal ma'am, honorable teachers and all the seniors present here. I am Sayan Ghosh of class 10 standard would like to present a short paper on the topic World Migration and Global Crisis with respect to Palestine and Jews. We all know where is Palestine and what is going on. The migration of Jews throughout history has been influenced by various global crises reflecting the broader patterns of migration. In present, Jews are migrating to Palestine. So we should know who are Jews. So Jews are the ethno-religious group originating from the Israelites and Hebrews of ancient Israel and Judah. The religion Judaism is one of the oldest monastic faiths dating back over 3,000 years. Jewish history is marked by the periods of both sovereignty and diaspora, notably the Babylonian exile and Roman disappearance. Jews have been faced significant persecutions culminating in the Holocaust during the World War II. Not only that, throughout the history, Jews have lived in various regions around the world, forming diverse communities with unique customs, traditions. In maximum time, Jews are migrating in Palestine. Origin of Jews. So, the Jews have originated from the ancient Israelites of Canaan. Their history includes the exodus from Egypt around the 13th century BCE and the establishment of the kingdom of Israel under kings Saul, David, and Solomon. After the kingdom split into Israel and Judah. Not only that, after the splitting of the kingdoms, it was especially by the Assyrians and the Babylonians disappeared then. Despite this, Jewish maintained a strong identity based on monotheism and Torah. This is the small map which I am showing you that the ruling empires of Jews and the place where they were ruling. Palestine. Now let us move to the original topic, what we are talking about. Palestine, it's a region in Eastern Mediterranean, encompassing present-day Israel, the West Bank, and the Gaza Strip. It holds immense historical, cultural, and religious significance for multiple groups, particularly Palestinians and Jews. In context to population dynamics in Palestine, it's important to note the presence of both Jews and persecutions. Historically, Palestine has been home to diverse communities, including Jewish, Muslims, Christians, and other minor groups. In the picture, I have shown you the number of Muslims, Palestinian Arabs in the place where it is distributed equally. The ethnic composition of Palestine, mainly referring to the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, is approximately Palestinian Arabs is 98 to 99%, and Muslims are 93 to 95%. Other, including ethnic Jews, Samaritans, Armenians, are 1 to 2%. This pie chart shows us the Palestinian people living outside the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. The highest number is from Jordan. It's around 25,89,000 people. Not only that, connection to the land of Palestine dating back to thousands of years, with Judaism being a central religion and cultural hub. However, in the modern era, the demographic makeup of Palestine has been shaped by complex historical events, including waves of Jewish immigration and then establishment of State of Israel in 1948. This graph shows us the immigration of Jews in the Palestine in the past years. The highest immigration was done in the year 1934 and 1935. It's around 60,000 to 55,000. This graph shows us the population of historic Palestine from 1872 to 1948. We can see the number of Jews has increased in 1948 to 33%, from 1872 from 4%. So, now we should know what is migration and why do people migrate. As we are talking about the migration of Jews in Palestine, we should know what is migration, why do people migrate. So, migration is a movement of people from one place to another with the intention of settling temporarily or permanently in a new location. This can occur within a country which is known as internal migration, and within two countries that is known as international migration. People immigrate from various reasons, including seeking of better education opportunities, economic opportunities, escaping from conflict or persecutions, reuniting with family, or improving their quality of life. Migration can significantly impact both the origin of destination locations, influencing culture, social, economical, and demographic aspects. Not only that, migration can be help for the betterment of the society. Like, if we talk about the economic opportunities, many people move to other cities from remote areas for getting better job prospects, higher wages, and improved standard of living. Then, education factors. Migration for educational purposes are common nowadays, particularly for the among students seeking higher quality of education. These two were some major examples for why people migrate. But now, we should know why Jews have been migrating to Palestine for centuries, driven by various historical, religious, political, and social factors. Why Jews are migrating to Palestine? Historical connection. Palestine holds significant historical and religious importance for Jews as true essential homeland for Jewish people. We can see Jews have immigrated to Palestine mainly due to Zionism and escaping persecutions. Key waves of immigrations include first area, which was done in 1882 to 1903, felling Eastern European pogroms. Second area, 1904 to 1914, continued persecutions. The third and fourth areas, which is 1919 to 1929 and 1924 to 1929 respectively, rising with anti-Semitism. The fifth area, which was in 1930s, feeling the Nazism and the post-World War II Holocaust survivors and the establishment of Israel in 1948. These movements were supported by Zionist organizations, the British Mandate, and the later Israel. What is a Zionist movement? What was a Zionist movement? The late 19th and the early 20th centuries saw the emergence of Zionist movement, which aimed to establish a national homeland for Jewish people in Palestine. This is a common route followed by the people of the Israelis or the Jews to invade or to immigrate in Palestine. In the map you can see that the people are immigrating from the Israel to the Palestine. In this picture, we can see that the Palestinian people are protesting against the war which is going on now. Some implications of Jews' presence in Palestine. The Jews' presence in Palestine has significantly impacted the region's social dynamics, and here are some key implications. The demographic changes, cultural interactions, economic impact, political tensions, identity and community. Overall, Jewish migration to Palestine has been shaped by a complex interplay of historical, religious, political and social factors. Here, we can see the demographic changes. Demographic changes and the cultural interactions are the two major implications which occurred in Palestine. Let us see about the demographic changes. Demographic impact. Population growth, urban and rural development, socio-economic changes, political shifts, and today's Israel population is about 9 million with 74% Jews, 21% Arab, and 5% of other groups. In demographic impact, the population has increased. Jews went from a small minority in the late 19th century to a significant portion by 1948, constituting 1/3 of the population. In the urban and rural development, Jewish immigrants established many towns and settlements, driving economic and infrastructural development. In socio-economic changes, immigration brought skill, capital, and technology, leading competition and tensions with the Arab population. Not only that, the political shift, the demographic changes has fueled political shifts, including the creation and the rise of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The second most and the major thing is that cultural interactions. We know about the cultural interactions, right? But about this, cultural interaction between Jews and Arabs in Palestine after Jewish immigration included cooperations and conflict. In economic exchange, new agricultural businesses practices benefited both communities. Cultural exchanges they shared public spaces in mixed cities, facilitated limited cultural exchange. In British Mandate period, educational language, limited mutual attendance in educational institutions fostered some linguistic exchange in tensions and cooperations. Rising tensions over land and resources led to conflicts, but these were also cooperative efforts in labor and politics. In the post-1948, cultural divergence mutually influences modern efforts. In cultural divergence, the establishment of Israel and subsequent war reduced direct interactions, but Jewish and immigrant brought diverse cultures and mutual influences. Shared influence in cuisine, music, and art emerged despite conflicts. The art which I've showed you is part in the mutual influences. They've shared or they've made this art to show peace and harmony between two communities. But now it's going a war. Modern efforts, peace initiatives, and joint cultural projects continue to promote understanding and cooperation. Overall, interactions were shaped by economic ties, shared spaces, and political tensions with ongoing efforts for consequences and mutual influences. These two were some impacts and were the major impacts which was done in Palestine after immigration. At the end, Jewish immigration to Palestine has had phrasing consequences defining the region's history and ongoing exchange. Thank you.
To all the class 11 and 12 students, please be seated. The symposium will start now.
A very warm good morning to everyone present. Today, I, Gaurav Bania, stand before you. As we gather here today on the account of the third Kuladhar Das Academic Symposium, to address the topic that transcends borders and touches lives of millions. Moreover, focusing on the case of the Rohingya Muslims of Myanmar. In the world of ever-increasing connectivity and interdependence, the phenomena of global migration and crisis stands as both a testament to human resilience and reflection of our collective challenges. As you can see on the first slide, shows a picture of Rohingya women and children standing in a queue, and just beside it is a news article that highlights the suffering and human rights violations against these people. You can see how there is a Rohingya family inside the alligator's mouth being crushed by the teeth highlighted as the neighboring countries. Moving forward, let us look into the history of the country Myanmar. Located in the eastern side of India, was first known as Burma and later came to known as Myanmar in 1989. Being a very less developed country with a very diverse ethnic background, its population stands at 54.5 million people according to the UN data of 2020. Most of its ethnic composition is made out of the Burmans, followed by the Karen, Shan and Han Chinese. The Myanmar country was under the rule of the British for over than 60 years, which lasted during the 3 wars which were carried out between 1824 and 1886. The British rule in Myanmar made a very ethnic tension stuck, and the communities were in violence. The ethnic harmony of Myanmar was in a very good shape before the British rule. According to a census of 2018, in this region of Rakhine, which is considered to be the poorest regions of the country, there are 3.8 million people residing there, out of which 59.7% are Buddhists, 35.6% are Muslims, the Rohingyas. As we will be more focusing on the history of the Rohingyas and the human rights violations that they face, we should look into the origin of these people. The Rohingyas originated from different ethnic groups, which includes Arabs, Mughals, and the Bengalis. The divide and rule in the Arakan region of the British resulted in many of the Arakanese to hate on these Rohingyas and treat them as foreigners. This hatred can be viewed as a result of British imperialism. Since independence, Rohingyas suffer numerous human rights violations such as mass killing, rapes, tortures, which are continuing till date. As you can see on the right side of the slide shows the human rights violations that these people face, ranging from limited freedom of movement, lack of citizenship, social rejections, unemployment, and restricted healthcare accesses. This has created a chronic refugee crisis in the neighboring Bangladesh. As of late, thousands of Rohingyas remain displaced, depending on humanitarian aid for survival, while some undergo brutal repression by the Myanmar border guards. Now, looking into a specific case of human rights violation against these people of the 1982 Citizenship Act. This act codified a legal omission of the Rohingyas, making human rights and humanitarian conditions worse for these people. The act officially identified 135 national races that qualify for citizenship. The Rohingya exclusion denied full access of benefits of citizenship in what it is described to be a non-indigenous ancestry. Under this act, the Rohingyas can only possess foreign registration cards, which are widely rejected by many schools and employees, thus leading to large-scale unemployment and illiteracy among these people. The Rohingyas were viewed as economically developed by the Buddhists of Myanmar, who thought that their culture was under siege of the Rohingyas. Here you can see the number of Rohingya women and the kinds of abuses that they face and who are the abusers, ranging from local Bangladeshis, employers, police, and camp authorities. You can see the most of the abusers are police, and similarly, in the case of Rohingya men, most of the abusers are the local Bangladeshis. You can see they are physically and verbally abused. Now, moving on to the topic of migration. First, let us know what migration is. When we talk about migration, it is something which is debated internationally because of the prevalent recognition that a continuum of agencies exists rather than a voluntary or forced dichotomy. The term forced migration or migration has been used to describe refugees or displaced people and sometimes victims of trafficking. When we try to relate the topic of migration with these Rohingya people, we come to a conclusion that there are three kinds of migration being operated there. The first one is because of the clashes between the Rakhine state Buddhists and the Rohingya Muslims, leading to a successive displacement. This is because the Rakhine state people fear that the Rohingyas might turn against Myanmar, and if they happen to get into war with Islamic countries like Malaysia and Indonesia. Secondly, the military occupation at the borderlines of these states have led to large-scale displacement of these people. And thirdly is the vulnerability of life, which caused internal as well as external migration of these people. As you can see on the following slide, shows the migration route of these people from the Rakhine state to neighboring Bangladesh and sea routes which lead to Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand. Now, we should talk about the flow of Rohingyas in Bangladesh. As you can see, since 1999 to 2009, there is no rise as compared to the following years. This can be seen because of the massive hike in armed attacks and large-scale violence and serious human rights violations against these Rohingya people. The human rights violations in Myanmar's
suffered by these people are ranging from land conflicts, destruction of houses, torture, and forced labors, and sometimes extrajudicial exploitation. As you can see, here picture shows of thousands of Rohingyas displaced from their homeland looking for refugees in a rubber. They have nowhere to go. And here you can see it's read as which resulted in operation of Rohingyas as a result of 200,000 fled from Myanmar to Bangladesh in 1978. Now who are these refugees in Bangladesh? Mostly these refugees are single mothers followed by serious medical conditions, old persons at risk, followed by disabled people and separated children. You can see how the ratio is mostly dominated by the females and the children who are widely victims of forced labors and tortures. Now as we talk about how these people are migrating to Bangladesh, a question always arises, why Bangladesh? For that, we need to know what relationship Bangladesh has carried out with Myanmar in the following years earlier. Myanmar and Bangladesh share a land border of approximately 271 kilometers. The two have shared linkage between people-to-people contact, cultural engagements, and many political engagements too. But this has not yet reached its full potential because of the rising migration of these Rohingya people to the Bangladesh. And this is a crucial reason of the displacement of these people. Mass migration to Bangladesh has also affected its political, economical, and social spheres in many ways. And Bangladesh is unable to come up with a comprehensive solution and put a decisive end to this crisis. As you can see in this slide, shows a picture of a destroyed Rohingya village by the military of junta. Before coming to conclusion, I like to say that as individuals of today's world, it is our responsibility to create awareness about the suffering of these people so that it is something which is internationally debated and comes to a decisive end. It is the value of Myanmar to take back these Rohingyas as quickly as possible and provide them with all kinds of supports and national security. As it reads here, if Myanmar decided to take back 300 Rohingyas per month, the problem would be solved by 2025. With this, I'd like to conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Honorable guests, respected principal ma'am, vice principal sir, and the dearest participants and audience. I am Arpita Roy of 12th Humanities, would like to welcome you to today's symposium on the topic Global Migration and Global Crisis with respect to South Sudan. The crisis in South Sudan has exacted a heavy toll on millions of lives, tearing apart families, displacing the communities and undermining the very fabric of society. At the heart of this entire crisis lies a profound loss of livelihood as people struggle to cope with the devastating consequences of conflict, displacement and economic hardships. The crisis in South Sudan, which erupted in December 2013, is characterized by a deadly combination of political power struggles, ethnic tensions, and armed conflicts. Stemming from long-standing grievances and competition for resources, the conflict escalated into a full-blown civil war between the forces loyal to President Salva Kiir of the Dinka ethnicity and those aligned with the former Vice President Rick Matter, who is of the Nuer ethnicity. This power struggle has resulted in widespread violence and displacement of millions and dire humanitarian conditions, with both sides accused of committing egregious human rights abuses. Despite numerous peace agreements and international mediation efforts, including the 2015 ARCSS and 2018 ARCSS, sustainable peace remains abusive due to the challenges in implementation and a lack of trust between the varying parties. Resolving the crisis demands concerted efforts to address the underlying grievances, promote inclusive governance, and ensure accountability for the atrocities committed, all while providing critical humanitarian assistance to alleviate the suffering of the South Sudanese people. The South Sudan crisis has led to a significant migration both within the country and across its borders, with profound humanitarian consequences. Internally, millions of people have been displaced from their homes due to violence, insecurity, and the destruction of livelihoods. Many have sought refuge in the overcrowded crowds or informal settlements, facing inadequate access to basic necessities such as food, water, healthcare, and education. Externally, a number of South Sudanese have fled to the neighboring countries like Uganda, Ethiopia, Sudan, Kenya, etc., seeking safety and asylum. The influx of refugees has strained host communities and resources, presenting significant challenges for the humanitarian agencies and governments in providing assistance and protection. The migration resulting from the South Sudan crisis underscores the urgent need for the sustained efforts to address the root causes of conflict, promote peace building and reconciliation, and ensure the well-being of and the rights of the affected populations, both within and beyond the South Sudan borders. Overall, the South Sudan crisis has been a complex and multifaceted driver of migration, resulting in widespread displacement and human suffering both within the country and across its borders. Addressing the root causes of the conflict and providing assistance to those affected will be crucial in mitigating the migration in South Sudan. In this graph, as we can see that the number of migrants in the neighboring countries of South Sudan has increased respectively, which is highest in case of Uganda, then Sudan, Ethiopia, and even Kenya, and also the Democratic Republic of Congo. In this picture and slide, we can see that the number of families have escaped to flee conflict in South Sudan. Researchers have shown that 3.7 million people have fled their homes and 6 out of every 10 South Sudanese refugees had children. 1.3 million people are internally displaced in South Sudan, and in Ethiopia people have traveled through 8,49,000. 4,22,000 have migrated to Ethiopia, 1,16,000 in Kenya, 8,25,000 people have migrated to Uganda, and 1 lakh people in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Conflicts in the world's newest nation have spread across the country, creating a severe humanitarian crisis. South Sudan has the third largest refugee crisis after Syria and Afghanistan. The South Sudan crisis has had a devastating effect on the children. exacerbating already challenging circumstances and threatening their well-being and future prospects. Children are among the most vulnerable populations affected by the conflict, facing severe risk to the safety, health, education, and overall development. The widespread violence and displacement has exposed the children to various forms of trauma, including witnessing or experiencing violence, separation from the family members, and displacement from their homes and their communities. Many children have been recruited as child soldiers or subjected to the sexual violence and exploitation, leaving lasting physical and psychological scars. Access to essential services such as healthcare and education has been severely limited. Many schools damaged or closed due to the conflict and insecurity. Malnutrition rates among the children are alarmingly high, exacerbating by the food shortages and limited access to the humanitarian assistance. This includes ensuring access to safe environments, psychological support, education, healthcare, nutrition, and opportunities for recovery and rehabilitation. International support and advocacy are essential to prioritize children's needs and promote their rights in South Sudan's humanitarian response and peace-building efforts. As in this graph, we can see that the number of children having no access to education have increased when compared to 2010 and 2014, which is a major drawback of South Sudan. The economic crisis in South Sudan, exacerbated by persistent inflation, presents profound challenges for the country's stability and the development. The South Sudanese economy has been severely impacted by the factors such as conflict, political instability, and weak institutional capacity. Rampant inflation has eroded the purchasing power of the local currency, leading to soaring prices for essential goods and services. The depreciation of the South Sudanese pound against the major foreign currencies has further exacerbated the situation, hindering the trade and investment rates and contributing to a widening trade deficit. Additionally, the reliance on imports for basic commodities has made the economy susceptible to external shocks, such as fluctuations in the global commodity prices and disruptions to supply chains. Addressing the economic crisis and tackling inflation requires comprehensive reforms to stabilize the currency and promote fiscal discipline, improve governance and transparency, and diversify the economy away from its heavy dependence on oil revenues. Political instability in South Sudan has been a persistent challenge since the country gained independence in 2011. Rooted in long-lasting ethnic tensions, power struggles, and governance failures, the country has experienced cycles of violence, conflict, and political deadlock. The failure to address underlying grievances and implement inclusive governance mechanisms has further fueled instability and eroded public trust in the political institutions. Political violence, human rights abuses, and widespread corruption has undermined efforts to establish peace and stability, exacerbating humanitarian suffering and hindering the socio-economic development. The lack of accountability for past atrocities and violence has perpetuated a culture of impunity, fostering a cycle of violence and distrust. Addressing the political instability in South Sudan requires comprehensive reforms to promote inclusive governance, strengthen the rule of law, and build accountable and transparent institutions. Sustainable peace and stability can only be achieved through genuine dialogue, reconciliation and meaningful participation of all the stakeholders in the political process. As in the slide can be seen, Ammunition has rightly said his views and shared his views on the South Sudanese crisis, and he tends to hold responsible the foreign powers, especially the European powers, for this crisis. Here he explains that during the Second Sudanese civil war, what was actually killing us wasn't the Muslims, wasn't the Arabs. It was somebody sitting somewhere manipulating the system and using religion to get what he wants to get out of us, which is the oil, the diamond, the gold, and the land. He tries to make the people realize that the European powers, which have been the colonizers of most of the African states and countries, tend to utilize their natural resources in their own benefit. Political instability and ethnic violence in South Sudan is a deeply entrenched issue with historical roots and contemporary manifestations. The country's diverse ethnic composition, including groups such as the Dinka, Nuer, and others, has historically experienced tensions over land, resources, and the political power. These tensions have often been exploited by the political elites in their own interest, exacerbating divisions and fueling intercommunal violence. The conflict, characterized by targeted attacks against the civilians based on ethnicity, has led to widespread displacement, loss of life, and humanitarian suffering. Reconciliation efforts have been hindered by deep-seated mistrust, unresolved grievances, and cycle of revenge and retaliation. Addressing the ethnic violence in South Sudan requires comprehensive measures to promote the inclusive governance, foster inter-ethnic dialogue and reconciliation, and address underlying the socio-economic inequalities. As in the graph, it shows the petty aggressions in South Sudan, which held responsible the following factors like external forces, identity militias and political militias, along with the rebel groups and the state forces, which was highest during the 2014 after the breaking of the South Sudanese crisis in 2013. This slide shows the effect on children, which is the highest for the children under the age of 15 years, which is as high as 45%, and it is the lowest for the adults, like from the age group of 85 and above, which shows that the future of the South Sudanese people and the country is in a great danger, as the future of the country lies in the hands of the children and the youth. The South Sudan crisis has had a profound and disproportionate effect on children, on women and children, exacerbating existing vulnerabilities and exposing them to various forms of violence, exploitation, and deprivation. Women in South Sudan face heightened risk of sexual and gender-based violence amidst the conflict, including rape, abduction, and forced marriage, perpetrated by the armed factors and within their own communities. The breakdown of social structures and displacement have disrupted the traditional support networks and exacerbated women's vulnerability to exploitation and abuse. Access to essential services such as the healthcare, education have spread. Now, I would like to conclude here by saying that as global citizens, it is our prime and moral responsibility to stand in solidarity with the people of South Sudan and support efforts to address the root causes of the conflict, rebuild the livelihood, and promote peace and stability in the region. Let us commit ourselves to this cause with compassion, determination, and resolution. The future of South Sudan depends on our collective action. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we come towards the end of our symposium, we were able to infer from our various speakers that how global crises such as economic crisis, political crisis, ethnic violence, international interference, and human rights violation leads to huge and pathetic migratory crises. As netizens of this global interconnected world, we face some very vital and pivotal questions in front of us, that how are we going to solve this crisis in a peaceful, tranquil and resolutionary manner? Can we afford this kind of cataclysms? Can humanity come at cost of other human lives? Does sovereignty stand for this? Is the idea of global citizenship realized? These are some of the most salient questions for us in present time. Ladies and gentlemen, as our motto says, think, feel and achieve. So I request everyone that let us think for the solution, feel the pain of the victims and achieve global peace. Thank you.
Now, I request our esteemed guests to
I think if you have any questions, you can ask your friends, and then our esteemed guest will deliver lecture.
If you have any questions, please raise the hand. Will you ask a question?
Why has the UN failed to help these refugees?
I would say the answer to this question will be UN is made up of many countries. So the leading countries such as US and Russia are itself engaged in these wars. So they do not want any action against them. So I think US is just a council of the non-peace preaching countries.
Is there any other question?
The people that are engaged in this conflict are using weapons. So where are they getting these weapons from, and why is the UN not taking any action?
regarding the Syria case, the weapons are being received from NATO, GCC states, Iran and Russia. And regarding the UN, I think I gave the answer in Aman's point. Thank you.
This is the question to Mr. Arunabh. Despite knowing the illegal migrants from Bangladesh to Assam and West Bengal, why the Indian government is not taking any action towards the illegal migrants?
Sorry, Mr. Kocheng, this part is not mine. It is
Could you just repeat the question?
As you know that there are many illegal migrants in Assam and parts of West Bengal and Tripura. So why the Indian government is not taking any actions regarding this matter?
Now, India government is taking like there are many acts like we know that what is NRC, right, National Residency Certificate. This has been passed by government of Assam to say or to verify the people that they are from Bangladesh or any invasion or so on. That's the answer.
Since the resources are limited, so what are the steps taken by the government to fulfill the needs of these illegal migrants?
Mr. Kocheng, I would like to say that if every country thinks that refugees should not be given shelter, how will this crisis be resolved? It is our humanitarian duty to accept these refugees in a limited percentage according to our economical status. So I think Government of India has been taking refugees by keeping the economic status of our nation under the. Thank you.
If the government is taking too many refugees, then what about the problems of the indigenous people of Assam and West Bengal?
The government of Assam is providing different lands to indigenous people of Assam, like Boro lands given to Boros, Karbi lands given to Karbis. So government of Assam, not only government of Assam, government of India is taking many steps. These were some examples which were taking the government of Assam. So we cannot tell that government is not taking any actions. They are taking any actions, but the refugees are so high that the actions they are taking is not at the point. That's the answer for you.
Now I request our esteemed guest to.
So what steps have been taken to combat cultural discrimination and xenophobia in the affected countries? What steps have been taken to combat cultural discrimination and xenophobia in the affected countries?
I think in my slide I have shown you about a drawing which was drawn by the Jews to show harmony and peace between the immigrants. That was an example done by Jews and the Palestinians to show the harmony and peace between two communities. So this was an example.
Now, I request our esteemed guest to share a few lines of his experience on our symposium.
Oh my God. Oh my God. What a symposium it was. Let me tell you and let me confess that I'm from Cotton University, which is one of the most premier institutes in the entire northeastern region with regard to education and higher education. For long I have not heard and experienced such nice symposium even at Cotton University. Okay, so a big clap to the entire team of Royal Institute and these 6 very immensely, supremely talented speakers who have spoken so vibrantly. They have spoken their heart out, and I'm very impressed with how they amalgamated their thoughts. And somebody spoke about Palestinian crisis, somebody spoke about Syrian crisis, somebody spoke about South Sudan crisis. Isn't it amazing? I know that such topics might not be of interest for everyone sitting in the room. That's nature and we understand that. But even then, without having an interest in the topic, if you have learned even one word, one sentence, one idea, and the fact that ultimately 6-7 people questioned, had queries in their mind, that is important. That is very important. And as ma'am said in the beginning, she set the tone of this entire symposium so correctly. She said that it is ultimately the critical thinking power that is important for us. The critical thinking, what is critical thinking? She said it, that it is evaluating, it is analyzing, it is synthesizing. You analyze, you learn new things, you gain new knowledge, you synthesize, you gain knowledge from here, you gain knowledge from there, you cross-check, and then you also assess, you also evaluate. That is important. And I believe today's symposium has given immense scope and opportunity to everyone to critically think about this very, very crucial and pertinent issue, which is the issue of global migration and global crisis. Coming to individual speakers, I'd like to first highlight the symposium started with Arunabh Das. He's a very smart guy, has a very dynamic personality, I must say, because I'm a person from communication. I deal with not only, though my department's name is mass communication, but I deal with communication a lot, and my specialization is in communication for development, which includes interpersonal communication, group communication, and also public communication. And I believe Arunabh is a very confident speaker in that regard. The way he talked about the Syrian crisis, I got enlightened with his presentation. We all have heard about Syrian crisis in newspapers, across different media vehicles, but the confidence with which he talked about Syrian crisis and factually he articulated in front of us, that is commendable. I'll next come to Ishita. Ishita spoke elaborately about the Venezuelan crisis. Her focus, even Arunabh's focus was immigration, and Ishita's focus was also immigration. Do you know what is immigration and immigration? Migration basically can be looked at from 2 lenses. One is immigration. So there is this country, the original country, suppose India, for instance India. So somebody from India goes to Germany, then that person would be called, from Indian point of view, that person would be called emigrant. And from Germany, if somebody comes to India, that person from Indian perspective would be called immigrant. Yes. Emigration and immigration. So there were altogether 6 presentations. Most of them focused on immigration. There was Sayan Ghosh's presentation, where he focused a little bit about immigration. So it was a mix of immigration and immigration based Let me now tell you something. global. The topic was global migration and global crisis. Please understand that global nowadays is also local and local is also global. Okay, so global encompasses the entire world, the entire planet, isn't it? Countries, nations, continents, everyone included, it's called global. So we need to have a global outlook, which means what? We should not think only about our country outlook, our state outlook, our regional outlook, but also global outlook. But then again, global includes local in the sense that the perspective from some village in Nagaland should also be a part of the global agenda. The perspective from some views from maybe Tripura should also become part of the overall global agenda. Okay? So, as I mentioned, Tripura, you know, Tripura is currently facing migration crisis. Yes? So, I'm sure you all know about it. So, there is this aboriginal, indigenous Tripuri community people who are now facing identity crisis. So, migration issue is directly and very strongly related to identity crisis. During answering to one of the questions, I think Arunabh mentioned about the Boro land. Arunabh, who mentioned? Yes, he mentioned about the Boro land, how government has formed the Boro land. What is Boro land? Boro land is an autonomous residential council. Okay, so autonomous residential council. But why was Boro land formed? Why was Boro land formed? It was formed because the aboriginal Boro community people, the Boro tribe people, they felt that because of illegal immigration, because of dominant other cultures' dominance on their culture, they were slowly losing identity of their own. Okay, so ultimately there were protests, movements, demands, and Boro land was formed. So migration is a very complex and it is a very multi-dimensional, multi-layered complex concept which could not be, ended with concluding discussions. It requires a lot of deliberations, continuous deliberations. Okay. Let us now talk about because nobody talked about India and Assam. Let us now delve into a little bit about India. What is the current situation of India? India is overpopulated. We all agree to that. India is overpopulated. And there is a lot of internal migration also within India. What is internal migration? Not international. People from within states, they migrate. So from in Assam, but in Guwahati particularly, Guwahati is Assam is the gateway to the Northeast India, and Guwahati is the most developed cities in the entire Northeast India. So there's an influx of population, particularly youth members, to Guwahati. And then from Northeast, people move to metro cities like Delhi, Bombay, Mumbai, Chennai, Kolkata. Why? Because of better opportunities. Because of better opportunities with in what regards? Employment, education, exposure. So for a certain section of people who can afford, now I'm telling you, who can afford. Okay, so in that sense, migration with regard to getting better opportunities in terms of education, employment is rewarding for that privileged section who can afford that migration. Somebody from, I have many friends who have shifted, relocated to Germany, Australia, US. They are privileged. Okay, and when I say privilege, it's not just in terms of money, it is also in terms of outlook. Okay, so that they were exposed to the idea of, and migration is not bad. Human beings had always been migrators. There are migratory birds also, but then we are here talking about human migration. So migration, the Ahom community people, for instance, so they were also travelers, they were migrators. Migration is not bad. In fact, there are countries currently in the world like Luxembourg, then there's Australia, Canada, they encourage migration of foreign foreign nationals to their country. Here, why do they do that? Why? They encourage their overpopulation to control us. Their population is under control and they want people to come and serve their country. Again, migration, both negative connotation. I mean, when we say migration, immigration, emigration, illegal immigration, these terminologies, nomenclatures are always seen from a negative connotation or negative perspective. But we also need to understand that sometimes migration is good. Sometimes migration is good. How? Suppose tomorrow you all, some of you, okay, you go to US, you earn a lot of money and you send back money to India. That is called remittance. If the remittance is good, then it is not bad. What is remittance? Have you heard of this term called remittance? Remittance is you earn money there in a foreign country and you send back that money to India, to your native country, to your country of origin. Okay, so that way also, the country, the host, the original country, the country of origin, is in an advantageous position. But then again, that is why I say it is a complex, complicated. We have to look at the entire issue of migration from a 360-degree holistic perspective. But then again, there is a discourse that highlights that there is a lot of brain drain. Okay, should citizens of a country, for instance India, leave India for rewarding experiences in terms of finance always, or is it also important for them to stay back? Maybe they might not get that economic reward as much as they might have got somewhere else in a foreign country, but should they stay back? Like our principal madam from Modern English School, she went to United Kingdom, London. She was there, she got exposed to a lot of different experiences, she learned a lot and she came back. Okay, so there's this issue of, there's an entire debate of brain drain also related to migration, that good brains are leaving our country, and basically primarily, predominantly the talented ones leave the developing countries, and this is a phenomenon particularly with developing countries. Then if we talk about developed, underdeveloped, developing, then what will happen if all good brains from the developing nations shift and go and migrate to the developed countries for better economic rewarding experiences? Then what will happen to these developing countries? How will these developing countries, underdeveloped countries even become developed? Okay, so this is an entire dichotomy that we are facing currently. Okay, now I'm really impressed with the deliberations, 6 deliberations that we listened to since morning, in the sense that there was underlining to the fact that women and children are the worst sufferers of any migration-related crisis, whether it is rape, whether it is sexual assault, whether it is other sort of physical, mental violence. Women and children are the worst sufferers. Okay, and like the entire symposium ended with the conclusion that we need to be more sensitive, we need to be more humanitarian. Have you heard of Universal Declaration of Universal Declaration of Human Rights? So this is basically an international document that has been accepted and adopted by the United Nations General Assembly, which says that human right violation in any condition should not happen. Even refugees, people who have been displaced or dislocated from one place to another, they also have basic human rights. And human rights include communication, human rights include participation, human rights include food, human rights include shelter, human rights include clothing. Okay, so these should not get violated in any situation, in any circumstances. They may be refugees, they might seek for asylum, they might seek for temporary residence, but human rights need to be maintained, and they need not be violated. But violation is rampant. Human rights violation is currently happening, let alone other countries. In India too. In India too, there is gross violation of human rights. Okay, so these are questions that we need to answer. And as budding youth, tomorrow you will be taking leadership positions, you will be venturing into higher education. You need to keep these aspects, these questions in mind, as to how to cope up with, because we cannot give very tight bracket, water compartment tight bracket solutions, one size fits all solutions. The situation in Tripura is very different from situation in Assam. Situation in Assam is quite different from situation in Sikkim. Okay, so context-wise, situation-wise, background-wise, we need to find solutions to unique problems, maybe with regard to migration also. So that the migration solution that works in case of South Sudan might not work in case of Syria. Okay. Somebody also talked about participation, inclusive governance. What is inclusive governance? What is participation? These are theoretically loaded concepts, and you need to understand what participation is. Let me tell you, I'll just take 2 minutes. What is participation? Participation is not just mere physical presence. What is participation in governance? Some of the speakers have rightly given solutions to this entire global migration crisis. That participation is required, sensible governance is required, inclusive governance is required. So what is participation? You all are physically present here. Is that participation? As passive listeners, is that participation? That is one level of participation, true. But the fact that you all have listened to the entire deliberation very carefully, and also you have questions in your mind, and the symposium speakers also, answered very confidently to your questions and queries, is real participation. What is inclusivity? Inclusivity is what is inclusive governance? These are terms and nomenclatures, concepts that you need to understand in depth. Okay, what is inclusive governance? क्या आपको पूछा गया जब एक रास्ता बनाया गया? That is inclusive governance. किबा स्कूल এখন बनाया कोई स्कूल बनाया, कोई हॉस्पिटल बनाया, एक गांव में, simple example, I'm going to the basics. There are lots of priority needs of a village. School is needed, hospital is needed.